Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Picture this, October 2008. Aaron, a successful lawyer juggling 3 young kids and a thriving career, gets the phone call that shatters everything. Her husband, John, just 35 years old and seemingly healthy, has a rare, aggressive cancer. That lump they'd been casually monitoring? Actually, a baseball-sized tumor. The X-ray looked, as one doctor grimly put it, like a Christmas tree, lit up with disease. The prognosis was devastating, and time was running out fast. In that moment, all those carefully laid plans, the retirement savings, the career ladder they were climbing, the future they'd been building brick by brick, suddenly felt hollow, meaningless even. A close friend, watching their world implode, offered the simplest yet most urgent advice imaginable. Stop everything. Just be together as a family while you still can. So that's exactly what they did. Erin walked away from her legal career. Between brutal cancer treatments, they didn't jet off to exotic bucket list destinations or chase Instagram-worthy adventures. Instead, they found magic in the mundane. Park visits, movie marathons, video game sessions with the kids, school pickups together. When John's treatment took them to Boston, they turned the gaps between appointments into impromptu history tours, soaking up every step while his legs could still carry him. 3 months. That's all they had, from diagnosis to goodbye. But looking back through her grief, Erin held on to one lifeline of gratitude. She'd quit that job. She'd been there, fully present, for every precious remaining moment. This story, as gut-wrenching as it is, drags a question out of the shadows that most of us spend our whole lives avoiding. A question we don't seriously wrestle with until it's staring us in the face, and by then, it's far too late. What exactly are we waiting for? We're all running on this inherited script, aren't we? Society handed it to us before we could even read. Work yourself to the bone. Save every penny you can. Delay gratification for this magical future moment called retirement. We're taught to be that industrious ant from the old fable, constantly stockpiling food for a winter that feels forever away, while we judge the grasshopper who spends his summer singing and dancing. But Bill Perkins, the author of the book we're diving into today, poses a question that fable conveniently never addresses. What actually happens to that ant? If the ant burns its entire existence in endless labor, when does it ever actually get to live? This question sits at the beating heart of Die with Zero, a book that's less about spreadsheets and more about soul-searching. It's a bold, even controversial manifesto, arguing that money's ultimate purpose isn't to accumulate the biggest pile possible. Instead, it's to transform your finite life energy into the richest, most meaningful experiences you can have, ideally leaving as little cash behind as possible. By the time we finish this journey together, I guarantee your perspective on money, time, and life itself will shift. You'll understand why saving too aggressively can be just as damaging as not saving enough. You'll discover how to invest in experiences that keep paying you back for decades. And you'll walk away with a framework to ensure you don't reach your final days with a fat bank account and a heart heavy with regret. Let's dive in. Remember that old fable about the ant and the grasshopper? Quick recap. The ant grinds all summer, stockpiling food for winter. Meanwhile, the grasshopper lounges around, playing music and soaking up sunshine. Winter arrives, and the ant's cozy with its stash, while the grasshopper starves. The moral seems crystal clear: sacrifice now, enjoy later. Our entire civilization is basically built on this one story. From childhood, we're conditioned to delay gratification, to sacrifice our vibrant present for some nebulous, secure future. We trade our healthiest, most energetic years for a paycheck, dutifully socking away portions for when we're old and gray. We become absolute experts at saving, but somehow remain total amateurs at actually living. Bill Perkins thinks this is completely backwards. We've overcorrected so hard that we've missed the point entirely. We're so terrified of becoming the grasshopper that we spend our entire existence as the ant, forgetting that surviving winter only matters if you get to enjoy the next summer. We're so obsessed with not running out of money that we forget our truly finite, irreplaceable resource: time. Die with Zero builds on a simple but profound insight Perkins borrowed from another transformative book, Your Money or Your Life. Here it is. Money isn't just paper or numbers on a screen. It's your life energy, crystallized. Every single hour you spend working is trading 60 irretrievable minutes of your one and only life for dollars. Once you truly internalize this, everything changes. Is that designer shirt really worth 2 hours of your existence? Is that daily fancy coffee worth the hundreds of hours it adds up to over a year? This completely reframes money's purpose. Money isn't the destination. Money is simply a tool to convert your life energy into something else. And what's that something else? Experiences. According to Perkins, your life isn't the sum of your bank balance, your job title, or your possessions. Your life is the sum of your experiences. When you're lying on your deathbed, you won't be tallying up your investment portfolio. You'll be replaying your memories. The richness of your life will be measured entirely by the richness of those memories. This leads to a radical conclusion. You should be maximizing meaningful life experiences, not your net worth. So if experiences are life's real currency, how do we get more of them? Perkins suggests treating them exactly like investments. Not just any investments, but the most important investments you'll ever make. Think about how normal financial investments work. You put money into a stock and hope for dividends over time. Experiences work the same way, Perkins argues, except they pay something infinitely more valuable: memory dividends. When you take that trip, buy that concert ticket, or learn that new skill, you get the immediate joy of the experience itself. But that's just the down payment. For the rest of your life, you get to revisit that experience through memory. You share the story with friends, flip through photos, or simply close your eyes and transport yourself back. Each time, you collect another payout of joy, connection, nostalgia. That's your memory dividend. Unlike a new car or fancy gadget that loses its thrill within weeks, experiences often increase in value over time. The memories compound. That challenging backpacking trip that felt miserable in the moment becomes a legendary tale of resilience a decade later. A simple family vacation transforms into a cherished snapshot of when the kids were small and everything felt possible. These dividends keep paying out, enriching your life long after the money's been spent. This completely flips conventional wisdom on its head. Spending money on experiences isn't frivolous or irresponsible. It's investing in your future self. And like any smart investment, the earlier you start, the more time your dividends have to compound. Perkins shares the story of his friend Jason, who, in his early 20s, made what seemed like an absolutely insane decision. He borrowed $10,000 from a loan shark to backpack through Europe for 3 months. Perkins thought he'd lost his mind. They were both making roughly $18,000 a year, splitting a tiny apartment. Quitting his job and going into debt seemed like financial suicide. But Jason went anyway. He stood in the haunting silence of Dachau concentration camp. He sat in a Parisian park with new friends, eating baguettes and cheese, feeling like the whole world was opening up. He fell head over heels in love on a Greek island. He came back transformed, with stories and perspectives that made him, as Perkins puts it, infinitely richer. Years later, Perkins realized, with deep regret, that he should have gone. When he finally made it to Europe at 30, he was too old and too comfortable to have that same raw, life-changing experience of youth hostels and backpacks. He'd missed the window. Jason, on the other hand, considers that trip priceless. "Whatever I paid," he says, "it was a bargain. The experiences I gained are part of who I am. You can't take those away, and I wouldn't trade them for any amount of money." He's been cashing in memory dividends his entire life. Perkins learned a crucial lesson. Some experiences have expiration dates. You can't backpack through Europe like a 20-year-old when you're 40. You can't play catch with your 10-year-old son when he's 30. Sometimes waiting isn't wise at all. Sometimes waiting is just another form of wasting. This brings us to the book's most provocative, headline-grabbing idea: the goal to die with zero. Now, these 3 words are intentionally shocking. They trigger immediate fear and resistance. Die with zero? That sounds reckless and terrifying. What if I live longer than expected? What about medical emergencies? And the question that comes up every single time Perkins discusses this concept: what about leaving something for the kids? Let's unpack this carefully, because this is where the book's real practical wisdom shines through. First, die with zero doesn't literally mean hitting zero before you die. That would be catastrophic. It's a guiding star, a principle designed to counteract our natural tendency to oversave and underlive. The goal is to die with as little unspent money as possible, because every dollar left behind represents wasted life energy, hours you worked that never got converted into joy or meaning. Perkins offers the example of a hypothetical woman named Elizabeth. She works 50-hour weeks, lives frugally, saves religiously for retirement. She retires at 65, passes away at 85, leaving behind $130,000. On the surface, this looks like responsibility rewarded. But Perkins asks us to look deeper. At her hourly wage, that leftover $130,000 represents 646 hours of her life. That's more than 2.5 years of 50-hour workweeks spent earning money she never got to enjoy. 2.5 years of her one precious life, essentially wasted. That, he argues, is the real tragedy. So how do we solve this puzzle? How can we possibly aim for zero when the future is so maddeningly uncertain? Perkins offers several powerful tools and mindset shifts. First, let's tackle the fear of longevity, the risk of outliving your savings. Most of us try to solve this by self-insuring, which means hoarding a massive cash cushion just in case we live to 110. But this approach is incredibly inefficient. A single person is terrible at managing longevity risk alone. The smarter solution? Use financial tools designed specifically for this problem, like annuities. Think of an annuity as longevity insurance. You give an insurance company a lump sum, and they guarantee you a paycheck every single month for life, no matter if you live to 95 or 105. By pooling risk across thousands of people, they can do this far more efficiently than you ever could alone. This setup frees you from the paralyzing fear of running out and lets you spend your remaining savings more freely, knowing your basic survival is covered. Now for the biggest objection, the kids. Dying with zero is selfish, people insist. I want to leave an inheritance for my children. Perkins' response is both logical and deeply compassionate. If you genuinely care about your children's well-being, he argues, waiting until you're dead to give them money is actually the worst possible timing. Think about it. The median age for receiving an inheritance in the United States? Around 60 years old. By 60, your kids are likely at or near their peak earning years. They're probably financially stable. Sure, the money's a nice bonus, but it's rarely life-changing. Now imagine they'd received that same money at 30. At 30, that money could be the down payment on a house in a good school district. It could fund a business dream. It could let a parent stay home with a newborn without crushing financial stress. The same exact amount of money has dramatically different impact depending on when it arrives. Perkins tells the story of Virginia Collin, who struggled for years as a single mother, barely scraping by while raising 4 kids. Meanwhile, her parents had plenty of money, but they were saving it for her inheritance. She finally received $130,000 when her mother passed away, when Virginia was 49. By then, she was remarried and financially comfortable. The money was welcome, sure, but as she put it, it just would have been so much more valuable earlier. Perkins advocates for intentionality. Decide how much you want to give your children, then give it when it'll make the biggest difference in their lives, generally between ages 26 and 35. This way, you actually get to witness them enjoy it, and you clearly separate their money from yours. What you've set aside for them is no longer part of your die with zero calculation. The rest is yours to convert into life experiences, guilt-free. But here's the kicker. The greatest legacy you can leave your children isn't money at all, it's memories. The time you spend with them, the experiences you share together, these shape their lives and create their own memory dividends. Working endless hours to leave them a bigger pile of cash while missing their childhoods? That's a terrible trade. So how do we actually put all this together into something practical? Perkins introduces two powerful concepts: time buckets and knowing your peak. Instead of maintaining one chaotic bucket list to somehow complete before you die, create time buckets. Draw a timeline of your life from now until your estimated end and divide it into 5 or 10-year segments. These are your time buckets. Then start brainstorming all the experiences you want to have in your life, big and small, expensive and cheap. Don't worry about money yet. Just dream. Once you have your list, start placing those dreams into different time buckets. You'll quickly notice that certain activities naturally belong in specific buckets. Hiking the Himalayas probably goes in an earlier bucket when you have peak physical health. Taking a relaxing cruise, that can comfortably slide into a later one. Having kids and taking them to theme parks, that defines a very specific set of buckets. This exercise does something profound. It forces you to confront the reality that your life isn't one long, uniform stretch of time. It's a series of distinct seasons, each with unique opportunities. If you don't plan for those seasons, the opportunities will pass you by forever. You'll wake up one day and realize the window for a certain experience has permanently closed. This brings us to the final puzzle piece: knowing your net worth peak. For most of our lives, we're in accumulation mode. We work, we earn. Our net worth generally climbs. Traditional advice says to keep this going until retirement, then live off the interest while never touching the principal. Perkins says this is a recipe for dying, with way too much money left over. Instead, there should be a deliberate point in your life, your peak, where you intentionally shift from accumulating money to spending it down. This is the top of the hill. After this point, your net worth should start declining on a smooth glide path towards zero at life's end. So when is this peak? For most people, based on health curves, income patterns, and enjoyment potential, the optimal net worth peak occurs somewhere between ages 45 and 60. That's much earlier than most people think. It means that in your late 40s and 50s, your real golden years, when you still have decent health and likely your highest earning power, you should be spending more aggressively on experiences than you probably are. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job. It might mean cutting back hours, or simply making a conscious effort to spend the money you're earning on memorable experiences, rather than just watching it pile up in retirement accounts you'll never fully drain. At its core, Die with Zero is a call to boldness, to take calculated risks, especially when you're young and have little to lose. It's a call to move across the country for that dream opportunity, to start that business, to take that trip. Because the risk of inaction, the quiet, creeping risk of a life left unlived, is actually the greatest risk of all. It's a wake-up call to stop living on autopilot, to deliberately choose the kind of journey you want, because in the end we all get exactly one ride on this roller coaster of life. The goal isn't to step off with the most tickets still clutched in your hand. The goal is to stumble off breathless and exhilarated, knowing you made it the most thrilling, satisfying ride it could possibly be. So, what do we actually take away from all this? When I first encountered Die with Zero, I'll be honest, my gut reaction was resistance. It felt like it violated everything I'd been taught about being responsible. The title alone feels confrontational. But the more I sat with these ideas, the more I realized Perkins isn't advocating for irresponsibility at all. He's advocating for a higher, more profound form of responsibility. Responsibility to your own life. Responsibility to not waste the precious, non-renewable energy of your youth, health, and time. The most powerful lesson for me, and I think for anyone, especially if you're younger, is this concept of the memory dividend. It completely reframes how you approach life. It gives you permission to see that spending on a trip with friends or tickets to see your favorite band isn't just fleeting pleasure. It's a long-term investment in your own happiness. You're building a portfolio of memories that will sustain you for decades. When you're young, you're rich in the one thing older people would pay anything for: time. You have decades ahead to collect those dividends. Don't squander that opportunity. The second game-changing takeaway is time buckets. Such a simple exercise, yet so brilliant. We all have vague dreams floating around. Someday I'd like to. But someday is dangerous. It's where dreams go to quietly die. By putting your dreams onto an actual timeline, you make them real. You're forced to see that hiking Machu Picchu isn't something you can do at 85. It belongs in a specific bucket with a real deadline. This creates healthy urgency. It transforms you from a passive dreamer into an active architect of your own life. So here are a few concrete things you can do right now to start living this philosophy. First, create your first-time bucket list. If thinking about your whole life feels overwhelming, just focus on the next 10 years. What are the key experiences you want to have in that window? Write them down. Be specific. This isn't about money yet. It's about intention. What does the next season of your life look like if you design it deliberately? Second, identify one experience from that list you can invest in this year. It doesn't need to be expensive. Maybe it's a weekend camping trip, learning guitar from YouTube tutorials, or a spontaneous road trip with your best friend. The point is to practice the skill of converting your resources, your time, and a bit of money into memory dividends. Start building that portfolio now. Finally, have a real conversation. Talk to your parents or grandparents about this stuff. Ask them what experiences they're grateful they had when they were younger, and what they wish they'd done differently. You'll learn more about them as people, and you'll absorb profound lessons about time's fleeting nature that will serve you your entire life. That was a summary of Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. We've covered the main ideas today, but I need to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a postcard of the Grand Canyon. You get the general idea, but it's nothing compared to standing on the edge yourself, feeling the wind, seeing that vast emptiness stretch out before you. The real power of this book lies in how it forces you to reflect on your own life, your own fears, your own dreams. This summary is meant to give you a map. If any of the places we've explored today sound like somewhere you'd want to go deeper, I really encourage you to grab a copy of the book. Reading it isn't just absorbing information. It's embarking on a journey that could fundamentally reshape how you choose to live each and every day. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it sparked something in you, do me a small favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another potentially life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.